Welcome to the second developer log for this project. It's been almost 2 months since my last video, but that's because I've been kind of lazier than I should have been. First, I'd like to talk about the scope. Since I'm a terrible planner, I'm not really too sure where this game is going yet. We've just taken a toll on the progress of the project. So this basically means I changed a lot about what I think this game is going to be in the end. So let's just pull up the list from the last video. My super humble idea. And in order to limit the scope of this project, I'm going to remove the programming aspect. Originally, this feature would allow the player to program their movement scheme for their rocket. I liked the idea, but when I was attempting to come up with different use cases for the programming, I just kept drawing a blank. So that feature's where we left off, we basically had a system to edit terrain. And I would like to correct myself from my first video. I incorrectly called this system a voxel system, which turns out voxels are a term strictly used for 3D, so people don't like when you call what I have here a 2D voxel system. I guess the technical word is pixels or tiles, so we're just going to go with tiles. So we can edit little areas with this terrain system, but as the game's going to be a roguelike, we need some way to create different level layouts each time the player restarts. So I began working on a system that'll do just that. It starts by kind of snaking through the map's grids, or rooms, starting at the top and going to the bottom. I basically tried to recreate the algorithm described in that Spelunky video made by Mark Brown. I'll put a link in the description. So it goes through the rooms in a random order, and collects them into a list in that order. Next, the generation system creates entrances from one room to another by removing the tiles in between the rooms in a random way. Sometimes it removes the tiles near the bottom, sometimes the tiles near the middle or the top. I designed different room layouts, which I marked as rooms you drop down from, or into, rooms you only go vertically or horizontally, and then the start and end rooms. These layouts are placed depending on their type, before the entrances are placed. I started with one layout for each, but we'll be adding more, and I'm sure I'm going to be tweaking and adding them until the game comes out. So next up, after the main path was found and generated, I create side paths. So basically, a new start room is chosen from all the rooms, and the same room generation algorithm is run based on that start room. This creates another main path, but it's actually just a side path. I can run this algorithm n number of times basically to generate different numbers of paths. After all side paths are created, a different function runs that randomly connects different rooms together in an effort to create different paths. Now comes the not so fun part. Since I'm using Unity's entity component system and new physics packages, I have to, in a sense, create a collision detection system. Using Unity's built-in package, collision detection is simply a function you override, whereas the physics package basically hands you a list of every collision that happens that physics step, and you need to figure out what to do with that list. So the issue is not that the collisions didn't happen, but that I needed to know where a collision happened, and what entities are colliding. With a custom tile system, this was harder than I thought it would be, as I had to use a bunch of weird math to try and find the correct tile collided with. However, after a few days, I was able to kind of detect which tile was being collided with, and by what. This allowed me to make a test function that would destroy any tile the player collided with to make sure the collisions were working properly. This may have sounded abstract, but if you ever try to use the new Unity physics package, you may understand the pain that it causes you. To Unity's defense, the packages I'm using are preview packages. They are still in development, and they say not to use them in the real project. After adding some more room templates, the levels being generated aren't looking too bad. Also, I got to add some particles, some sounds, a few models, a little bit of lighting, and if you look close enough, a pixel shader. So this part's apparently pretty important. Maybe talking through some of the basic mechanics will make sense here. So your player's a rocket ship. You have a left and right thruster that you can use to fly. You have stabilizer you could use to make your ship upright. You have a booster that can propel you upwards. You also currently have a grappling hook. That's just an experiment for now though. And that's the basics of the ship movement. Ideas that I'm still thinking about are adding bombs you can drop and different types of lasers or guns you can use. Currently, maneuvering the ship is pretty difficult. But that's kind of the point, as once you've got a general idea on how to move around, you should be able to get through the levels. I do worry that it may be too difficult for people once they start though. I definitely need to start testing a bit. So right now I'm also struggling with creating hazards for the player. As the game stands, there are 3 ways to take damage. Keep in mind you have 3 health for now, so no way to get back health. So you can hit a rock too fast, blow up from a mine, or you can touch the spider. Rocks are just wherever I made them in the level layouts for now, so they're kind of just placed randomly. With the collision system from earlier, I can tell the forces of a collision, so I can play different noises for different forces or damage you. Mines work like this. They float there until something touches them, then they fall, and they explode on the first thing they touch. The spider is kind of just a square thing that hops around every 4 to 6 seconds, and if you're near, it'll jump towards you. If it hits you, it takes damage and it dies. My next video I should have some more hazards. I'm thinking of maybe some lasers or some spikes, maybe a bat, maybe like a rock that crushes you, so you know. We'll see. In the past few months I've accomplished a good amount, I'd say. Unfortunately, a lot of the work is still feeling like engine work, but I'm moving into game mechanics more and more. And there's still so much more to add, like more enemies, more layouts, more just items in general, I suppose. Menus. I gotta tweak the visuals for sure, a little bit, maybe. And lots of bugs, I'm sure, like a lot. Yeah, so thanks for watching.